CEJ urges government to treat Kolamko mine accidents as emergency. Mines Minister wants to deal with scavengers at Black Mountain. Chilufya Tayali says he's ready to die on behalf of Juba transport workers. UPND unveils its candidates for Mongu by elections. And Chipata City Mayor says municipalities and cities are key to development. You can also watch this news live on Facebook via our social media handle, Ask Muvi TV. With the news details, my name is Keith Mwemba. The Patriot Front PF says former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu's remarks on hypocrisy after the burial of the late 4th Republican President Rupia Bozani Banda was on point. PF Information and Publicity Chairperson Raphael Nakachinda says there has been a growing trend of hypocrisy in the country, where people, especially politicians, are only appreciated when they die. Mr. Nakachinda says it is for this reason people should not be afraid to confront each other with the truth. He says these are like a situation where former leaders were vilified and called thieves are being inclusive immediately after leaving office. Mr. Nakachinda says the situation is the same with former head of state Mr. Lungu, who is today being insulted day and night without looking at the positive things he did. The former Minister of Water Development and Sanitation says it is hypocritical for President Hakainde Hichilema to state that the reason opposition parties gathered to mourn RB was because of a conducive environment that had been created.
I'm compelled to make a comment in relation to the fundamental truth that the former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu said yesterday, which has attracted some kind of debate. I think the advice and the sentiment of the former head of state yesterday was on point. As a people, we should never be afraid to confront each other with truth. The level of hypocrisy across the board, I think, is pathetic. Historically, as a people, we have always only celebrated people when they die. You have, for example, President Kaunda, who at the time that he left office, he was vilified, called a thief, his family, children called thieves, until in recent times, that's when we began to have positive sentiments coming in appreciation of his service to the country. But look at the outpouring, tributes and positive statements that were made at the time that he died. The second Republican President, Dr. Frederick Chiluba, when he left office, he was called a thief, vilified, persecuted, even at the point of him being acquitted. To his death, he was still being called a thief. But at the time that he was being buried, everybody was up showering praises, how that he was a father of democracy and the one that laid the foundation for economic growth that we've experienced as a country. Mwanawasa, it was the same. Now we're talking about President Rupia Banda. But look at President Michael Sata, it was the same. We condemn one another, condemn leaders, and only to come and celebrate them in their death. That is a high level of hypocrisy. Today we have a former head of state in Edgar Chagwa Lungu. As we speak now, President Lungu is being vilified, is being, persecuted, his family, his children, everybody is calling him a thief, somebody who never did anything to this country, even when we know that the infrastructure development that we are celebrated as a country to have achieved and attained was achieved under his watch. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema today is trotting the whole corners of this country, commissioning with his ministers projects that were left by the Patriotic Front government. That is never appreciated. They never even have the courtesy of referring to those achievements. They pretend as if they are the ones who have achieved. Now, what makes even the fundamental truth of hypocrisy real is to have a head of state, for example, at showground during the funeral of the official funeral of President Rupia Banda, suggest that the reason why opposition leaders and others are participating in the funeral is because they have created a conducive environment for that kind of thing to happen, which is very unfortunate. That statement is far from the truth. The truth is that now we have in opposition leaders who are civil and are able to distinguish between national events.
Center for Environment Justice CEJ has urged government to treat the fatal accidents at Kolam Coal Mine in Sinazongo District, Southern Province as an emergency requiring immediate attention. CEJ Head of Research Freeman Mubanga has since urged the Minister and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Mines and Development, CEJ Head of Research Freeman Mubanga has since urged the Minister and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Mines to urgently tour Kolam Coal Mine in Sinazongo District before more lives are lost. Mr. Mubanga states the Mine Safety Department should also be making its investigations public after a mine accident in line with Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative to promote good governance in natural resource management. He says CEJ is disturbed by reports by Baita FM Radio in Choma quoting Sinazongo District Commissioner Nchimunya Siagole last that 7 miners at Kolam Coal Mine have died within a period of 2 to 3 months. Mr. Mwanga reveals that CEJ has been working in Sinazongo District for 2 years now and has realized that the New Dawn government through Sinazongo District Commissioner Nchimunya Siagole is committed to enhancing safety. He says CEJ understands that accidents at mine sites are bound to happen, but Kolam Coal Mines raises concerns on safety measures when over 5 lives are lost in a shortest period of time.
Sinazongo District Commissioner Mr. Nchimunya Siakole recently disclosed of the 7 fatalities that have taken place in Kolam Coal Mine over the past few months. Now, the rate at which these accidents are happening are alarming, and therefore we want to commend the current government, the New Dawn government, for working through the District Commissioner in ensuring that safety is a priority issue in mining companies, especially in coal mining companies in Sinazongo. However, we want to request to humbly appeal through the Minister of Mines and the Permanent Secretary, and including the Mining Safety Departments, to work closely with these mining companies, and the Minister must actually visit this mine, Kolam Coal, so that the issue is treated as an emergency.
Minister of Mines and Minerals Development Paul Kabuswe has sounded a warning that no one will be allowed to go and scavenge for chrome on top of the Black Mountain as it is dangerous. Black Mountain was given to cooperatives by President Hakainde Hichilema with intent to benefit the copper belt. Unfortunately, after the pronouncement, confusion erupted as people started scavenging for chrome by climbing on top of the slag dump without security and safety measures. The act prompted the Mines and Minerals Development Minister to visit the site and have a chat with all stakeholders. Mr. Kabuso says the situation is now charging that no one will be allowed to climb the mountain. Meanwhile, Mr. Kabuso has also encouraged the police not to compromise on security. He says security must be intensified and no one should be allowed entry for illegalities.
Filiafia chitike buliabushi kwifia kunina pamulu palya na filetia sana sakamiko ukweba ati bila kupicha telela chapo na bantu bafu aifo tatulefwaya so ningu mfwa kuilishanya kwenu kweba ati imiti pile ya batirio balesha mukuti perfect tipeti pyomu abula obukumo inenshi lefaya kwati kumu bepaika baya bula fyamalo babaisa itila yamoneka kwati na betila kuromu na kuromu ya chine tamuri so nafuba mukweba mine manager na ba geologist ukweba ati nga mulefu ayokula tipa mule konka mining efa yaba obo yaba material ya ishibikwa ati material ni yafulamo ni chrome ile ishibikwa bwino sana so tatulefwaya ubwali buli apa wayabula apa lya malobopo epo waisha tipila abantu aini so natubeba tuti mufwaye the correct belt apa aba chrome ufweni kuno ufweni busie nga wabule mbale shibilyaini mungu shefa nderani ubwali bumo bwine wabubula fyo ubwali wa
Outspoken politician Chilufya Tayali has accused Juba company's staff member threatening him over his involvement in advocating for good conditions of service of Juba truck drivers after one of the company's drivers died in Mozambique and his body allegedly abandoned. Mr. Tayali says the body of the late Danny Silumba would have not been decomposed if Juba Transport gave it attention in the first place. Meanwhile, Juba company management attributes the delay to transport the remains of Mr. Silumba, 42 years of Chingola, to paperwork.
This boy called Ishmael, you are busy sending me text messages and calling me to say I'm being malicious to Juba Transport. I've got no business with Juba Transport. I don't even know you guys. I don't even know you, Juba Transport. I didn't even know about Juba Transport. So the issue of being malicious is nowhere. And I know, you know, I don't want to mention his name, but he has again gone on the rampage accusing me of all sorts of things. I don't know, and I don't want to enter into that. I don't want to answer individuals who have got their own agenda. I don't want to answer them. The point is that I didn't enter into the issue of Juba Transport and their late driver Danny because of anything. It is simply because there was negligence. And as much as Juba Transport may try to, justify and defend itself, they can hire as many loud voices as they can, as many good English speakers as they can to defend themselves, but the facts still remain. The facts still remain. People can try to paint, to paint white where there is black. It will still be seen behind to say, behind there is a black paint. And the fact is that there was negligence on the part of Juba Transport. No matter how you look at it, there was negligence. And that is a negligence that I've been fighting. That was I was fighting against. And that negligence underpins what drivers have been talking about. The poor conditions of services. The negligence that is on the drivers. The death of Danny just brought out, it was an epitome of the negligence that drivers suffer, the abuse that drivers suffer. They leave their homes for months to traverse countries to go and get goods from one point to the other, and at the end of the day what they get peanuts. They get really nothing to justify the kind of job that they do them, so they're taken advantage of. And this is why I've come in to fight for them. I know there are a number of other workers who are also going through, bad conditions of service.
And more stories after the break. The UPND unveiled its candidate for Mongu mayor by-elections. We take a break. We'll be right back.
Fairview University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
Istana ya Afrika ya kupendezalo akamwana kanono nomsepela kuikala chapamo kuribe kumunzi kuribe mutauni kumatero aliyenze afunika.
The Zambia Statistics Agency will this year conduct the census across the country. The census aims to count people in households, rural and urban, hospitals, military, police and correctional facilities. This numbering will extend to hotels, farms, as well as high-density areas with different families sharing a house and those in transitory locations. Every person in the country matters and should be counted because the census will benefit all, from migrants, refugees and street children, homeless people, the young and the old people, as well as persons with disabilities. Everyone counts. This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency.
We are delighted to add Lubumbashi and Goma to our network. Welcome aboard Rwandair, Africa's safest airline that will connect you to more than 24 destinations throughout the network.
Rwandair, fly the dream of Africa.
Thank you for staying tuned. We continue with the news. The United Party for National Development UPND has announced Nyambe Muyumbana as its candidate in the Mongu mayor by-elections. The Mongu by-elections has been associated by the death of the mayor, Matakala Nyambe, in February 2022. Speaking during a press briefing Sunday morning, UPND chairperson for elections Gary Nkombo says Muyambana was chosen out of 12 candidates who had expressed interest to contest. Mr. Nkombo also announced candidates for Lukutu ward in Luwingu, Northern Province, and Katimba ward in Monze, Peter Chanda and Brian Chingula respectively. The Katimba ward by-elections has been called due to the death of the councillor, while Lukutu ward was nullified after a petition.
Whereas the Lukutu ward was occasioned by an absent in a petition, an election petition. And so on Tuesday, the 22nd of March, we are going to filing our nomination papers for our candidates, and I'm glad to announce the adopted candidate for Lukutu ward, a man who answers to the name Mr. Peter Chanda. Mr. Mr. Peter Chanda was our candidate in the 2021 general election, and he petitioned the loss of this election, and fortunately the election was nullified. And so he remains our candidate for Kutuwa. In the case of Katimbawa, this was occasioned by the death of the councillor, and UPND has adopted Mr. Brian Chingula, I beg your pardon. Mr. Brian Chingula is our candidate for Katimbawa in Monze. In the case of Mongo mayor election, which is a big one, I want to confirm here we had a total of 12 candidates, out of which one needed to emerge. And I want to state the party's gratitude to all the candidates who showed interest to be the flag bearers in this election, all the 12 of them. We thank them profusely for showing the confidence. But as we know, in this process, only one can emerge. And this one who has emerged is by no means any better than all of them to us. They are all our people, our members. But indeed, this one who emerged possesses the attributes of an early morning winner. And so the party settled for a man who answers to the name Nyambe Muimbana to be our candidate for Mongu District Mayor election. The adopted candidate again is Mr. Nyambe Muimbana.
A Zambian senior citizen of Serbian origin, Milan Godovic, 78 years of age, has been left homeless after losing his 2 estates to land grabbers. Details are that unknown people working with a non-government minister in the New Dawn administration, working in collaboration with some officials from the Ministry of Lands, grabbed his land in 2008 located in Chilanga after Mundawanga Gardens alleging non-development. However, after a lengthy court process to save his property, Mr. Godich lost the case and was told to bear the cost, leading to being evicted from his second property, which was his residence in Chilanga near Freedom Compound in 2020. After about 50 years of working and doing business in Zambia, Mr. Godich is homeless, only being sheltered by a friend in Lusaka's industrial area. He has since appealed to the United Party for National Development to intervene and relook in the matter and help him get justice.
It is a nightmare, a story of loss and despair. 78-years-old Milan Godic can only watch his long life investment from this far with only papers and pictures to show for it.
Office permanent house, and they already gave me this email. In that email written, they want to sell the property for between 360,000 kwacha dollars to $400,000. So a lot of people coming there to buy a plot. But I'm sure they knew that the land was stolen. Nobody buy. So after that, they opted to call that colored guy, since he got some machinery. Give them a fair plot on his name, from the shore to his name. Then he started, 23, bringing his machinery, plant to load completely and selling there. But they say they evicted my records on 28 February 2011.
In what can be termed as typical of Zambia's poor land governance, land grabbers became legal owners of his land that is located in Chilanga after Mundawanga Gardens, as they obtained legal papers from the Minister of Lands.
They always say, my records was now late, who was conspiring with them, with Mesula. The cabinet minister was there, cabinet minister was today, yesterday. The other lady, when she wiped my record, When the people come, danger, Lebanese, Zambia, she phone me. But when cabinet ministers come, no news, no, she not phone me. So the scholar sometimes got that we limit the 1,000 countries. That cabinet minister, I didn't know, till 2011. When the 2011 comes, there was a new commissioner, I went there. They already told me for reception, no, you can see his legal. Next room. I went back to the next room. I called him, I'm the one on the 144. He said, no, that plot wanted Felix Mutatis. That's it. That's how I thought he's behind it.
Mr. Godi says efforts to try and claim his land led to him losing this property where he used to stay, as he was ordered to bear costs of legal fees. It is unthinkable at this age. Mr. Godich is sheltering at his friend's residence. Wisdom Habanji is one of the former workers of Mr. Godich. The only hope for Mr. Godich is the new Dawn government, with its promise to look into some injustices, such as illegal dismissals that were perpetrated in the previous governments, that his case would also be considered. For Muvi TV News, I'm Afias Kaptula in Lusaka.
Chipoto City Council CCC Mayor George Mwanza says cities and municipalities are key instruments in driving real transformation and change. Mr. Mwanza has since urged municipalities to build back better thoroughly, enhance solidarity and sharing of experiences after the devastating impacts of COVID-19. Speaking in an interview with Sanis, Mr. Mwanza says cities and local governments, municipalities are key instruments of driving real transformation and change in Zambia and Southern Africa, especially that municipalities are at the grassroots level of governance and deliver services to the people every day. Mr. Mwanza was recently elected as Vice President of the Network of Young Elected Mayors of Southern Africa, YELLO, at the Union of Cities and Local Governments of Africa, UCLG, meeting held in Pretoria, South Africa. He says cities and local governments of Africa needs to play a key role in implementation of African Union Agenda 2063 as well as the United Nations Agenda 2030. He was speaking to the media upon arrival in the city of Chipata from South Africa. Labour Commissioner Givens Muntengwa has appealed to the public to exercise patience in the investigations over the death of Juba Transport Limited employee Danny Swilumba. Mr. Muntengwa noted the public should not look at the ministry to be unconcerned and heartless in relation to the death of Juba Transport driver, but rather it is equally dismayed with the transporter's conduct regarding the repatriation of the body of the deceased. Meanwhile, the National Union for Transport and Allied Workers, President Kingsley Kachenjela, says what happened to the late tanker driver of Juba Transport, Danny Swilumba, is quite disheartening. Mr. Kachenjela wonders who protect employees like drivers when the law enforcers sit back and watch investors break the rule of law.
A 42-year-old Danny Silimba, Zambian truck driver who died in the neighboring Mozambique, has been put to rest in Chingola, his hometown. It is alleged that Mr. Silimba was hit by a female government official on 11th March 2022 in Mozambique while on duty. The deceased was a driver at Juba Companies. However, Mr. Silimba's remains were deposited into a non-functional mortuary in that country. It is reported that the company he worked for diligently only traveled to Mozambique to retrieve the truck he was driving before he met his fate. The Ministry of Labour, through Labour Commission Givens Muntengwa, has appealed to the public to exercise patience pertaining the reported negligence exhibited by Juba Company. Time will tell. Liambela Mutumba, Muvi TV News in Lusaka.
You're still watching the Primetime News. We still have more stories. We take another set of commercials.
Anyone can get lucky.
Istana ya Afrika ya kubende chalo akamwana kanono nomsepela kwikala chapamo kuribe kumunzi kuribe mutauni kumatero.
The Zambia Statistics Agency will this year conduct the census across the country. The census aims to count people in households, rural and urban, hospitals, military, police and correctional facilities. This numbering will extend to hotels, farms, as well as high-density areas with different families sharing a house and those in transitory locations. Every person in the country matters and should be counted because the census will benefit all, from migrants, refugees and street children, homeless people, the young and the old people, as well as persons with disabilities. Everyone counts. This message is brought to you by the Zambia Statistics Agency.
Thank you so much for staying tuned, and now the news continues. UPND's Nkombo has committed to conducting peaceful campaigns in all three by-elections. He says in the recent past elections in the country have been marred with violence, but as a ruling party, the United Party for National Development UPND is committed to changing their narrative. Mr. Nkombo has also appealed to other political parties to make similar commitments to ensure peaceful and fair elections.
In the past, elections in this country have been marred with an ugly vice called violence. An ugly vice called violence. And speaking on behalf of the UPND, which is now the ruling party, I would like to ask all our members who are going to participate in these elections to carry out the crusade, carry out the campaign, carry out the lobbying, to endear the voters and desist from any electoral malpractices, which includes violence, which we abhor and abhor very much. To the Electoral Commission of Zambia, we also expect you to play your role in conducting and refereeing a free and fair election. To the police, again, we would like you to play your role, that being of enforcement and continuously policing these activities called election, because it is a competition of ideas, a competition of what one promises to provide, and not a competition of fists. So we want the police to be alert in order for us to have a peaceful election. To the other political parties, we would like to make an appeal, an earnest appeal, that please feel free to conduct your campaigns. And we'd like them to also pledge, in the same manner that we have, and it's coming from the party that's governing now, we would like them to play their part, to also conduct free, incident-free, fair election, and we are quite confident that come the 14th of April, the deserving candidates will take the day. And so we wish Zambia peace as we go through this competition. Because we are not enemies, we are just competitors. We are not adversaries. We are just competitors. And so the journalists, finally, the media, the fourth estate, we also expect you to play your role by way of covering the good and the bad. And if it shows itself, if it shows its face, we expect you to do fair coverage of the good, the bad, and also the ugly.
Chilubi Member of Parliament Mulenga Fube has taken a swipe at the new Dawn administration, accusing Minister of Health Sylvia Masebo of not attaching the urgency over the shortage of essential drugs in health facilities. He says Ms. Masebo's statement in Parliament was emotional and lacked address as to when government will deliver the commodities. The Chilubi lawmaker has also accused Minister Sylvia Masebo of attacking suppliers and other stakeholders, unlike instead resolving the shortage of drugs. He says government should not take the shortage of essential medical drugs in some health centers across the country as a political discussion but sort out the mess. Mr. Fube says the concerns raised by stakeholders and members of parliament from various constituencies are genuine, hence the Minister of Health, Sylvia Masebo, should focus on addressing the issues at hand and as opposed to playing the blame game on the civil servants. He adds government cannot afford to compromise the health of its people at this particular critical moment when Zambia is focusing on achieving the universal health coverage by 2030. Meanwhile, Mr. Fube has advised the new Dawn administration to stop putting every blame on the previous government but face the realities. He was speaking in a walk-in interview.
Medicine, to start with, is not even a political issue because it affects everybody. And when it affects everybody, no one should be seen to politics. Even saying, no, you are conniving with suppliers, it's political. Now, when you're looking at an issue of shortage of medication, we are all prone to sicknesses of all sorts. Meaning that we can even be in Lusaka, but unless you don't travel, you can travel to any other area. And why we want supply to be even in terms of covering the whole country is because we can be all over and we need to seek medical attention at every point, at least primary health care. Now, when you look at the issue of shortage of medication, it is an issue that, if not handled properly, will increase the disease burden. Both, I think, when you are talking about disease burden in this case, can have a spillover effect on the mortality and morbidity rates. Now, whereas it is understood that the suppliers in some way would have gone into large city or government would have geared in, because the supply of medication is an emergency. It cannot even be explained by anything. Once we notice that there is that gap, we need to come in, even with an emergency budget, if that's possible, because it's so linked also to disaster. Because we are talking about human capital here at stake. And when you expose human capital, we cannot talk about anything. We can't talk about economics and all that as an emergency as it was yesterday. So if that being the case, people just need to home up. This is not something that is supposed to be subjected to debate. It is something that needs action. As we are speaking, as we are arguing as politicians, this one takes this side, the other one takes this side, people are dying. And I think when you're talking about death, you can't reverse death. Without them dispensing medication and prescribing medication for the sick, because when they do the diagnosis, what follows thereafter is that there must be a cure or treatment.
A 7-year-old boy identified as Francis Kamwandi Jr. has accidentally shot himself with a homemade gun which was left loaded in the house of his great-grandfather. Father to the deceased, Francis Kamwandi Sr., explains that while visiting his uncle in the same village, his son, who was playing outside with friends, went in the house and shot himself using a gun which had been left by another man identified as Daniel Mukinjika, who had just returned from poaching activities. Mr. Kamwandi further explains that while chatting on the outside shelter, they just heard a loud bang from his uncle Kiyombo Ngoloma's house. When they rushed inside, they discovered his son had accidentally shot himself and his body was lying on the floor. And Northwestern Province Deputy Commissioner of Police Fred Mulenga, who has confirmed the incident which happened on Saturday night at around 15:30 hours, says Kamwandi's body was found with a gunshot wound on his chin and several wounds on the neck, was lying in his father's house where he was moved to and from the scene. Dr. Mulenga says the deceased bodies has since been deposited into Lumwana District Hospital mortuary, pending postmortem and burial, as no foul play is suspected, while a docket of sudden and natural death has been opened. He says the owner of the gun is to be charged with the offense of being in possession of a firearm without a license and failing to secure a firearm. Zesco Limited has announced the tender to supply 25 luxury vehicles, which was advertised in the state newspaper due to public outcry. The power utility firm, which has been grappling with debt, stated in the Zambia Daily Mail that it has set aside funds from its annual budget towards the cost of procurement of 25 motor vehicles and wanted to apply the proceeds as much. According to the details of the advert, Zesk wanted to buy 1 Toyota Land Cruiser VXL 300, 9 Toyota VXLs, 14 Toyota Prado TXLs, and 1 Ford Everest, all to be supplied in about between 2 to 3 months. But due to public outcry, the firm has opted to cancel the plans. A final set of commercial, we still have more stories. Don't go away.
They'll play a high press to force the mistakes. They'll dominate the aerial ball. They too tall. We will handle the pressure and smash them on the break. The number 9 has scored in their last 5 games. The passing will be quick, decisive, precisely. There will be drama in the dying minute. This match will mean more than 3 points. They will have the home ground advantage. This is why I bet. This is why I bet. This is why I bet. Betway.
Fairview University College is enrolling students for the January-April 2022 intake in the following: School of Education, Bachelor of Education in Early Childhood Education, Bachelor of Education in Primary Education, Bachelor of Education in Secondary Education, Bachelor of Education in Special Education, Diploma in Early Childhood Education, Diploma in Primary Education, Diploma in Secondary Education, Diploma in Special Education, Certificate in Early Childhood Education, School of Humanities and Social Sciences, Diploma in Public Relations, School of Hotel and Tourism, Diploma in Food and Production, Diploma in Front Office, Diploma in Food and Beverages Management, Diploma in Hospitality and Events Management, and Diploma in Sales and Marketing. For more information, visit us at Regent College along Kwazi Road or the North Mid Campus at plot number 11 Luamba Road, Lusaka, or call us on 0955 787114 or 0966 787114 or 0977 787114. Fairview University College. We aim at excellence.
Finally, Deputy Executive Secretary of Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, Dr. Anthony Munyahao, says despite the fishing farming industry in Africa growing at a fast rate, fish farmers are faced with challenges, among them fish feed, and says is fetching at a high cost. He says fish farmers also lack a good market for their fish product, both locally and international. Dr. Munyahao says there is need for concerted efforts between government, stakeholders and farmers to ensure their plight are addressed if the fish farming industry is to flourish.
A number of challenges have been identified by our farmers in fish farming. The biggest is fish feed. The feed, because most of the aquaculture farmers are actually importing the fish feeds from developed countries, Mauritius, from Brazil, from where. So the cost that is put in there, actually they estimate that up to 60% of the production cost goes into fish feed. Then secondly, they also have challenges with the fish seed. Now fish seed are the younger ones which are used. And these ones is because of the quality. If they are poor, then the growth rate will be low. And then the third one is the market of their products. They normally have problems of market when you produce the fish, and you know the challenges we have had in agriculture is like fish which is farmed is treated like a broiler chicken which is, people take it to be inferior. They are used to the traditional fish. So after this process, we are trying to see, number one, to address the issue of business to business to allow our fish farmers be able to get in contact with others outside who can do what supply to them now these feeds, but alternatively moving more closer to on-farm production of feed to produce using local available materials, because we have a lot of feed in the region which they can quickly transform into feed. And then three, also to ensure that we make our fish farmers into cooperatives so that they can quickly market their products and be able to get the benefit out of it. The aquaculture industry is growing, both earthen ponds, that's using ponds in the traditional system, and now the new innovation of cage fish farming on the lakes.
And that's it for the Primetime News this evening. To end it, we look at the headlines once again. Nakachinda backs hypocrisy statement by former President ECL. CEJ urges government to treat Colum coal mine accidents as emergency. Mines Minister wants to deal with scavengers at the Black Mountain. Chilufya Tayali says he's ready to die on behalf of Juba transport workers. UPND unveils its candidates for Mongu by-election. And finally, Chipata City Mayor says municipalities and cities are key to development. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production crew, my name is Keith Mwemba. Good evening.